Okay, Assalamualaikum, good evening. Today will be our last lecture for this semester. Right, next week you'll be having a week free. Right, you have a date that week. So the last chapter will be risk and refinement in capital budgeting. Okay, the risk and refinement in capital budgeting. Okay, for our previous lecture we have learned how to use the capital budgeting techniques, right? How to use the capital budgeting technique. And now we look at the risk and refinement. Okay, how we want to take into consideration about the risk. Okay, risk factors here. So our learning objective for today, okay, the first learning objective or learning goals, that after this class you will be able to understand the importance of explicitly, okay, recognizing risk and analysis of the capital budgeting process. Okay, you want to know what is the risk which is associated in evaluating any project. For example, you are going to evaluate whether you want to choose project A or B. So what are the risk factors that you should consider in evaluating the NPV, right? And then discuss the break-even cash flow, sensitivity analysis, scenario analysis, okay, and also the simulation as a behavioral approaches for dealing with the risk. Okay, sometimes when you want to forecast your cash inflows, okay, sometimes your forecast must have some scenarios. For example, worst case, what is the best case, or the most likely case, right? So because sometimes when you want to forecast, you cannot be 100% sure that your forecast will be as what you have. I mean, the actual result will not be as the same as your forecast, right? So basically, you have to have like three. For example, in our case study, in our textbook, it shows about three scenarios. For example, the best case, the worst case, and also the most likely case. Okay. So these are some of the things that we will be covering today, right? Maybe we will be only covering on the theoretical part because we will be covering more detail next semester, right? So this is about only on the theoretical part here. Okay, and then to discuss the unique risks that multinational companies face. Okay, so multinational companies are actually companies which have subsidiaries in all nations, right? For example, you look at Nestle, right, Coca-Cola, they are all multinational companies. Okay, they have their operation in Indonesia, they have their operation in Taiwan, Singapore, right? So it is a multinational company. Okay, if you compare with a Malaysian-based company, actually the headquarters and all the operation will be based in Malaysia or US-based company. So it's different. Multinational company, you have a lot of subsidiaries, okay, like their subsidiaries and companies will be located in different nations, okay, different countries, okay. So that is multinational, and we look at the risk factor which is associated with this MNC, right? And then also another one which is the risk-adjusted discounted rate. These are the adjusted rate, okay, the adjusted rate after you have notify or what's the risk, for example, for the MNC companies, the action rate risk, okay, and all other risk factors. Then you want to modify your cost of capital, right? Okay, you modify your cost of capital. Normally, your risk-adjusted discounted rate will be higher than your cost of capital, right? And then recognize the problem caused by unequal life, mutually exclusive projects, and the use of ANPV, which is annualized net present values. Because sometimes when you have two projects, you'll be facing two unequal life projects. Okay, for example, one project will be having 5 years useful life, the other project has 10 years useful life. So if you want to compare, it's difficult for you to compare, right? Okay, right? Because the useful life is different. Okay, so we use ANPV to solve this problem. Okay, so this is important. Okay, this one we're not covering, right? So we just move on to the introduction in the risk in capital budgeting, right? Okay, thus far in our exploration of capital budgeting, all projects were assumed to be equally risky. So basically, it is equally risky. You use the cost of capital of 10%. Project A 10%, project B also 10%. So the risk are equal, right? So this is very simple because we want to simplify things, right? But normally in the practical world or in the real world, okay, the equal risk does not really, it is not really happening in the real world, okay? Okay, this is just to simplify things when you are learning, okay? So you have a 10% cost of capital, but in the real world, sometimes project A will have 10%, project B will have maybe 20% of risk, because you might want to invest in an asset or a machine which have higher risk. For example, machine A and machine B. Machine A is automatic, machine B is semi-automatic. So when you use, maybe the risk of using the automatic may be less risky, right, compared to the semi-automatic, whereby your employees might accidentally, okay, put his hand into the machine, and then disasters happen, hazards occurs, right? So that's why normally project will not have equal risk. Okay, they will have different risks. So the acceptance of any project will not alter the firm overall risk if they are equally risky. Okay, but if they are not equally risky, so the acceptance of a project might have some impact to our decision of making accepting the project. Right. So in actuality, this situation are rare. Okay, project cash flow typically have different level of risk, and the acceptance of a project does affect the firm's overall risk. Okay, so basically because of this nature of risk is different between one project and another project, so that's why when we accept a project based on this, right, based on the risk, so it would impact and have a significant impact or affect the overall project. Okay, so this chapter will focus on how are we going to handle risk. How are we going to handle risk? So, okay. Firstly, you look at the table 10.1. Okay, 10.1. Now these are two projects. Okay, project A and B, which has an initial investment of 42,000 and also 45,000. Okay, for this project respectively, right? And then you have this cash inflows, which is equal cash inflow. This one is a mixed stream of cash inflow, right? So this is actually from our previous example before, right? So we are using this again. Now, if we use the same risk, and we just say that project A and project B have the same risk, which is 10%, right? So we can always decide now. Okay, we choose the project which have the higher NPV, right, 11,000. But if this project has different risks, right, then you'll be facing some problems here, because project A has higher risk, project B has lower risk. So you would like to see which one do you want to choose. Normally, investors are risk averse; they don't want risk. Okay. Investors, they don't want risk. Okay, and if you are acting on the as a principal or an agent of the investors, you will have to invest in projects which have lower risk. Okay, lower risk. Right. Now we look at the behavioral approaches for dealing with risk. Okay, so in the context of the capital budgeting project, okay, discussed in this chapter. Risk result almost entirely from uncertainty about future cash inflow, because the initial cash outflow is generally known. So basically, risk is associated with the future cash inflow, your forecast, right? So are you sure that you will be getting the same amount that you have forecast today? Okay, for example, you forecast the first year you get 14,000, the second year 14,000. Are you really certain 110% that you will get that 14,000 in the first year and the second year? You are not certain, right? That is future, right? So basically, there are risks of whether your forecast will be correct or not. So these are what we call uncertainty in our forecasting for the cash inflows, right? Okay, so basically, it is associated with the uncertainty about our future cash inflow, right? So this risk results from a variety of factors, including uncertainty about future revenues, expenditure, and also taxes. Right? So you don't know what will be your future revenues. Okay? Your selling price. Okay? The market, you don't know. Okay? Maybe you are selling, for example, if you are in a manufacturing industry, manufacturing CDs, for example. Maybe you do not know 2 or 3 years after today, okay, the CD will become obsolete. Okay, the industry changed from CD, they changed to LCD, okay, or LCD, right? Okay, so it might be happening. You just look at the VHS, videotape industry. They have become an obsolete product, right? So you don't know what is your future revenue will be. So this is one of the uncertainty, and these are what we call risks of the future, right? And also expenditure. Okay, so basically expenditure also will be another factor which contribute to your risk. Okay, you might see that your expenditure will go skyrocket in a few years in time because of the some political reason, or maybe it's because of the exchange rate. Okay, or maybe because of the inflation rate. Okay, so your expenditure will go higher. So you do not know. You do not know this, but you have to anticipate all of these factors, all of these risks, and also taxes. Maybe because of the government policy, the tax from 28% increase to 40% might be happening, right? Okay, or because nowadays, from our last budget, right? From our last nation budget, 2004 budget, the corporate tax is lowered to 25%, right? 25%. Okay, that's from the cash budget, from our previous budget. Okay, so therefore, to assess the risk of a potential project, the analyst needs to evaluate the riskiness of the cash inflows. So we, okay, or you all, as the analyst, okay, or the financial manager, you have to evaluate of your riskiness of your cash inflows, right? What is your cash inflow will be? Is it risky? Is it low risk? Okay, so these are all your job when you are in the market. Right? Okay, now in evaluating the risk or the cash inflow, normally we will do, some of you will do, okay, sensitivity analysis. Right? Sensitivity analysis, normally we have 3 cases. Okay, one is the best case. Okay, the other one is most likely, and the third one is the worst case. Okay, or in the textbook it mentioned about the optimistic, pessimistic, most likely. Okay, if you are thinking optimistic, you are thinking positively. Okay, you are thinking positively that your company will be getting a lot of revenue in a few years' time. Okay, that is positive. Okay, positive thinking or optimistic. But if you are pessimistic, you are thinking negatively. Say that, okay, I think the future will be, the economy of the world will be going down. So you are only forecasting only maybe very slightly increase for your production. Okay, that is negative thinking. And also most likely, or which is the average case, maybe you can just forecast that. Okay, we take the average case or in the middle between positive or negative, in the middle of optimistic or pessimistic, right? So now you look at this example. A trade retire has a cost of 10% of capital and is considered investing in one of the 2 mutually exclusive project A or B. Okay, each project has a 10,000 initial cost and useful life of 15 years. Okay, so this is very simple. You survive 15 years. Initial investment also the same for both projects, 10,000. Okay, and also the cost of capital is also the same, 10%. Okay, as a financial manager, you have provided pessimistic, most likely, and optimistic estimate of the equal annual cash inflow for each project as shown in the following table. Now we look at the table, okay, which is presented here. So you look here, right? So these are the annual cash inflow. This is equal annual cash inflow. Equal annual cash inflow, which means that 1,005, 1,005, 1,005, 1,005. If you are pessimistic, okay, until 15 years. Okay, until 15 years. So 1,005 each year until 15 years. So this is if you are being pessimistic. Okay, right? So for project B, if you are being pessimistic, you only have a zero cash inflow. Now, if you are thinking about most likely or average case, okay, you might want to forecast 2000 and also 2000 for project A and B. Okay, but you are thinking positively or optimistic that you are thinking, yeah, then you forecast a bit higher, right? 2005 and 4000 for project A and B, right? So then you get the range, right? Range. Range is you just take 2005, your optimistic figure, then you minus with your pessimistic figure, which is the differences between these two. So you get 2005 minus 1005, you get 1000. And also the same as this, you just take 4000 minus with 0. This is the range that this actually says that you are, your figure could go in the range of 1000 from 1005 until 2005. Okay, it can goes up and down in the range of 1000, and this one it can goes up and down until 4000. Okay, so normally after you have find your cash inflow, you will find your net present value. Okay, you use the same formula, cash flow divided by 1 plus IRR power of n minus with initial investment, right? So that is the formula of cash, not net present value. And then after that, you find the net present value. Okay, after you find the net present value, you look at this range here. Okay, if you are pessimistic, okay, you get 1409 for your NPV for project A. Project B, you get a negative 10,000. Okay, negative 10,000. And then for project A, if you are using the average case or a most likely case, you get 5,212, and it's the same for project B because the cash inflow is the same, right? So NPV will be the same. Okay, and then optimistic 9,015, and for project B is 20,424. Then you just use the same method as calculating this range here to find the range for the NPV. Okay, so 9,015 minus with 1,209, we get 7,606. This is the range for project A, and project B is 30,424. Alright, now if you have to make a decision, right, which project you want to choose, project A or project B. Okay, if you have to make a decision right now as a financial manager, do you want to choose project A or do you want to choose project B? Now if you look from the information given here after you have calculated all the NPVs, okay, so you can see that this project B has a higher range, right? Higher range. Okay, so basically the higher the range, okay, the higher the risk that the project is facing. Okay, because you look at variance, right? Variance is the differences between X with mean, right? So basically you find, after you find variance, you get your standard deviation. The higher standard deviation, the higher the risk, right? So basically it's the same as this. Okay, the higher the range, okay, means that it has a higher risk. Okay, so basically you choose lower risk, okay, lower risk investment, which is this one, 7,606, right? Because normally investors are risk averse, so they are your principal, you are their agent, so you are working on behalf of their money, right? So basically you choose what they want you to choose. Okay, you choose the low risk investment. Okay, now we continue on to simulation. Now there is also, when you are using sensitivity analysis, sometimes it's difficult for you to do it manually because you have to do a lot of scenarios. You might want to choose not only 3 scenarios. For example, just now we use pessimistic, optimistic, and also most likely, right? But you can always do the best case, the best but not best case. Okay, and then average best case. Okay, so there are a lot of scenarios you can do, right? Okay, so basically you can do a lot of scenarios, but in doing that, okay, if you're doing it manually, so it's difficult for you, right? Because you have to do a lot of calculation and all that. So basically we have a simulation which we can use computer technology to assist us in making decisions, especially in using the sensitivity analysis. Very good simulation by using computers is Monte Carlo simulation. Monte Carlo. Is there any in your textbook? I don't think so. Okay, Monte Carlo simulation. That is a very good simulation. Actually, Monte Carlo simulation is derived from the gambling industry.